This video summarizes the basics of Pope John Paul II's Theology of the Body. Some who have tried to go through the studies may have found the topic difficult and the explanations dense. Don't worry, you're not alone. But hopefully after this video, you will be able to understand theology of the body a bit better. In 3 mind maps, I hope to summarize the basics of what you should know. Prepare to be captivated by the beauty of God's plan. So, let's start. Our starting point will always be the reason why God created us. God created us because God loves us. This is the overall connecting principle across all our studies. Because of His love for us, God created everything good, and that definitely includes our bodies. As Catholics, we do not believe that our bodies are evil, as compared to the Gnostic belief that the soul is good and the body is bad. Our bodies are good, and that's something to be happy about. Besides being created good, our bodies also teach us about why God created us. We can find clues in our bodies about our reason for existence and our purpose, and that is God has designed us for communion with others and God Himself. Yes, our longing to be with others is in God's design, because that helps us understand our longing for Him. Our bodies also make visible the invisible mystery of God. This is also known as the sacramentality of the body. Remember that a sacrament is an outward sign, something we see, of an inward grace, something we don't see. It's something like that with our bodies. Because through our bodies we can understand a bit about God and our purpose of existence, the theology of the body is the study that governs this aspect. This is what you will learn and hopefully appreciate and come to love by studying theology of the body. Now let's go through what mankind had lost after committing the original sin. With this, we can understand our unpleasant tendencies. So let's start from the beginning when Adam was first created and Eve was not yet around. Adam experienced original solitude. After seeing all the animals, he realized that he did not have a true companion. Nothing was like him because man is different from animals. And then came Eve. Adam now has a true companion. With Eve, Adam experienced original happiness, original unity, original innocence, and original nakedness. Their original happiness was rooted in the fact that it was a perfect gift of love. A perfect gift of love was initiated by God and received in love and shared in love. Let's not forget this aspect of love that we should all learn how to give and how to receive. Through original unity, they lived in perfect communion. A perfect communion results from the mutual gift of themselves, of their bodies. No one was using anyone. They also enjoyed original innocence, which is basically not having any knowledge of sin because they were originally innocent. And the original nakedness tells us that Adam and Eve can be naked without shame. This is because all sexual desires then were pure. Yes, sexual desires can be good. At this time, before original sin was committed, lust did not exist. That's why the sexual desires were pure. I hope that you see the beauty and generosity of God with man through His gifts of original happiness, original unity, original innocence, and original nakedness. Now, mankind has entered an era of historical man after Adam and Eve committed the original sin. Let's try to understand original sin more. Adam and Eve chose their own will over the will of God. And that's what we do every time we sin. They were able to do so because another sign of God's love, God respected their free will. And God respects your free will too. That's why we are free to hurt God. The original sin is caused by the dreadful pride, which, if you think about it, is the root of all moral evil. When we want to do things our way instead of God's way. So as a result of the original sin, Adam and Eve lost their original innocence. And this affected their hearts, minds, and bodies. From then on, all offsprings of Adam, that means you and me, suffer from this effect. One of the effects is called concupiscence, which is basically an inclination to sin. This is the reason why we find sinful deeds attractive. But it is important to note that it is not a sin in itself. Temptations are not sins. We only sin when we give in to temptations. So let's continue to do our best. But doing our best is not enough. This inclination is something we have to struggle to resist, but we can only succeed by the grace of Jesus Christ. Now back to theology of the body. One of the main inclinations to sin that we usually talk about is the disordered desire or inordinate enjoyment of sexual pleasure, also known as lust. Lust is to use another person, which is not a way of loving another properly. Now, because lust has entered the world, it is now difficult to be naked without shame. We now experience shame, which is a protective response against being used. We don't want to show our bodies, not because it is bad, but because we fear being used. We also experience, some of us experience shamelessness, which is not equal to being naked without shame. Shamelessness is flaunting the body without inhibition or conscience. Something like, I don't care what other people think as long as I'm okay with it. Now, where do we go from here? Going back to what we talked about earlier, God is still calling us to love, even in our fallen nature. And let's be clear about the definition of love. It is a decision to will the good of another. It's not just a feeling, but it's a decision. And it wants the good of the other. It involves a sincere gift of self, also known as the nuptial meaning of the body. In our bodies, we have the capacity to express love, in which a person, you and me, becomes a gift. If you talk about love as an attraction, it exceeds mere infatuation because it recognizes the good of the other and seeing both the outer and inner beauty of another person. This might take time. Now, love as a decision might seem tough, but with the virtue of chastity, we can understand the real meaning of love. Note that chastity is not just abstinence. Chastity goes beyond that. Chastity helps us with the right use of our sexuality in whatever state of life, whether you are single, married, or a member of the religious. If you're able to live chastely, you are not sexually repressed. Sexual repression is unhealthy. It is an unhealthy attempt to ignore sexual desires rather than embracing them and allowing God to reorder the disorder. A chaste person has allowed God to help him understand and embrace the right use of his sexuality. So there's no need to repress anything, and the person is free. We are all called in this loving relationship with God, and I hope that through your study of the theology of the body, you will grow closer in love and communion with God and with others. God bless you.